Hello, Army lovers, how are you today? No one can deny it anymore. Amid the glitter of America, Jungkook and Taehyung prove their friendship is stronger than anything else. What happens behind the scenes is truly shocking. No one is prepared for the fact that behind the glittering stage lights, camera flashes, and the euphoria of thousands of fans screaming hysterically from one city to another in the United States, two big names from BTS, Jungkook and Kim Taehyung, hold a story that is much deeper, raw, and more human than what we have seen on the screen. It's no longer about BTS's V and Jungkook look great in New York, or duo taekook makes the stage explode in LA. No, this is a story about true friendship tested by time, international pressure, differences in characters, to moments of silence when only hugs and looks in the eyes could be the only language left. The United States is no stranger to BTS. They have conquered Billboard charts, won awards at AMAs, performed on the Grammy stage, and even became regular guests on various famous talk shows. However, their big American tour that took place over the past few months became a new chapter for which they were never really emotionally prepared. It is here, from town to town, between stage to hotel room, that physical exhaustion meets mental stress, and only one thing keeps them standing: the inexplicable bond between Jungkook and Taehyung. Several eyewitnesses, including HYBE staff who did not want to be named, divulged that behind the bright smile that Jungkook always showed on camera was hidden fatigue that began to erode his confidence. He was a perfectionist in LA. Even after an outstanding performance, she would go back to her room and rehearse by herself until late at night. "We are starting to worry," said one manager. However, to his surprise, whenever Jungkook's condition seemed to start to decline, there was always one person who quietly walked into his rehearsal room, sat in the corner of the room, and accompanied him without saying a word: Taehyung. Their friendship is already known throughout the World Army. But never before had the world seen the depth of their relationship until they were far from home, in a foreign land, surrounded by the pressures of the Western world, and could only lean on each other. Fans may still remember how in an interview in New York, Taehyung suddenly looked at Jungkook for a long time before answering a question about, "Who is the person you can rely on the most right now?" He did not answer with words, just a slight smile, a warm look, and an arm reaching for Jungkook's shoulder. The camera highlights them briefly, the host laughs lightly. But only the most observant army knew. Something big was happening. What really happened behind the camera during the American tour? Why did Jungkook reportedly disappear from the training schedule in Chicago? And how did Taehyung make the shocking decision that shook HYBE's staff to save Jungkook's mental state? This story is so much more than just an idle friendship. It's about how two best friends spend silent nights in a hotel room filled with only the sound of a second-wall clock, about tears that fall without being prevented, about a text message at 3 a.m. that only contains, "I'm not strong anymore, Hyung." We're going to take it all apart. From the beginning of their tour in Los Angeles, their emotional moments in New York, to the night of silence in Boston that keeps the biggest secrets about both. All of us will open up because the world needs to know that behind the sparkle of global K-pop stars, there are two hearts that take care of each other, support each other, and choose to stay strong for the sake of each other. This is not a fan service. This is not a scenario. It's real. And this touches deeper than you can imagine. But it was Taehyung who sat the longest in front of that bathroom door, waiting in silence, not saying a word. It remains only to wait. Because sometimes, loyalty doesn't take the form of advice or hugs. Sometimes it's just being present. And when Jungkook finally opened the door, his eyes were swollen, and the first sentence that came out of his lips was, "I want to go home." Taehyung just nodded and said, "If you're going home, I'm coming." That's where it all started. Not from the stage, not from their first choreography, but from the cramped bathroom, between tears and the sound of an almost broken heart. But many do not know that their friendship was once almost destroyed at IN 2018. The world saw BTS as an unshakable group. Billboard, Grammy, Daesang album. But behind the stage, which was highlighted by the brightest lights, there was a dark shadow that almost destroyed the relationship of these two friends. Rumors about Jungkook's cold attitude towards Taehyung began to spread. Fans began comparing their seating distances at award shows. Even in V-Live, their presence together began to be rarely seen. But few people know that behind it all, there's a huge argument going on behind the scenes, one that gets Taehyung out of his dorm that night and into the studio alone. Jungkook, who was not used to showing his emotions, hit the wall until his hand was bruised. The manager at the time, who is now out of HYB, revealed that the night was the most stressful night in the history of the two BTS members' friendship, and all that, just because of one sentence. "You changed." It came out of Taehyung's mouth. Cold, sharp, and painful. He accused Jungkook of losing himself, of being too busy being the perfect idol, of forgetting all the things that made them friends in the first place. Jungkook didn't answer. His tears were proof that he was hurt, that what his best friend said may be true, but it's too painful to accept at one time. However, precisely from that crack, they rebuilt something stronger. After several days of avoiding each other, Jungkook did something he had never done before. He wrote. He wrote long letters, not through chat, not through text messages, but handwritten. The letter was never sent. But someone from the staff team found the letter left behind in Jungkook's studio, and before the letter was destroyed, someone had time to read and remember its contents. What's in the letter? It breaks the heart of anyone who reads it. "I'm not the little boy you met in the dorm back then. But I'm also not ready to lose you who always made me feel quite so myself. I might change, Tae, but not because I want to stay away, but because I'm afraid you'll go first." The last sentence of the letter: "We are two stars who are afraid of losing the same sky." 2020. Pandemic. When the world stopped, they again found each other. When the world is clouded by fear, when concerts are canceled, and all the members have to stay at home, that's when the once tenuous relationship begins to melt again. In the silence of no stage, no army, no schedule that kills personal time, Taehyung and Jungkook start greeting each other again in the simplest way: cooking together, watch movies, chat without a camera. One of the production staff of the documentary Break the Silence once said, their relationship at that time was like two small children who had just learned to speak again for the first time. And all that culminated in an emotional moment at their first virtual concert, as Taehyung spontaneously clasped Jungkook's hand in the Spring Day song, and Jungkook cried uncontrollably. It wasn't tears because of the song. It's the tears of someone who realizes that he's not alone anymore. So, what exactly has kept them together all this time? The answer is really surprising. In a 2023 closed-door interview that HYB never made public,